Hey everyone, welcome back to TechBit Academy. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to the explainer. If you've ever looked at a massive, incredibly complex software application and wondered, how on earth did they build this without the whole thing just collapsing into total chaos? Well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're going on a journey straight into the anatomy of software project management, or SPM for short, to uncover the real foundational structures that make all this digital creation possible.
It all really starts with this one super high-stakes question. What actually makes a software project succeed or completely fail? I mean, it's not just about having the absolute smartest coders in the room or an endless budget. The line between a spectacular, world-changing launch and a complete crash and burn almost always comes down to one underlying framework. And honestly, understanding that framework is exactly what we're going to do right now.
So here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll hit the 4 Ps of SPM. Second, we're defining the process. Third, we'll look at the core framework activities. And finally, the supporting umbrella activities. It's a nice logical top-down breakdown from the big ideas right down to the background support tasks.
Section 1. The 4 Ps of SPM. Let's establish the foundational building blocks of literally any software endeavor.
The classic ingredients for whether a project sinks or swims boil right down to these 4 Ps. People, product, process, and project. You could have absolutely brilliant developers and a revolutionary idea for a product, but if your execution is disorganized, yeah, that entire project is probably going to fail. So, while you obviously need skilled teams and a clear vision, today we are putting our magnifying glass directly on that crucial third P, the process, because that's the actual engine getting the work across the finish line. Moving right along to Section 2, defining the process. Let's see how setting up a step-by-step approach pretty much changes everything. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it sharply contrasts the pure chaos of working without a process against the structured clarity of real methodologies. Without a process, development is just a tangled mess of random tasks. Developers are left guessing what to do next, which guarantees daily confusion and probably a lot of headaches. But you introduce a structured method, things like Agile, Scrum, or even a traditional waterfall approach, and suddenly all those messy, scattered pieces stack up into a sturdy, predictable staircase. It takes you from random guessing straight to deliberate forward momentum. Let's ground this with a concrete example, shall we? Imagine we're building a brand new food delivery app using Agile. Instead of just staring at this massive, overwhelming mountain of features and panicking about where to even start, the process breaks the whole thing down into digestible, chronological chunks. Week 1, that is purely the login feature. Week 2, we tackle the order system. Week 3, payment integration. By isolating these targets, a totally impossible-looking project becomes entirely manageable. Okay, Section 3, Core Framework Activities. We are now looking at the very first specific layer of the process, the core engine that actively moves the project forward. This core engine runs on 5 specific, sequential steps. Returning to our food delivery app, Step 1 is communication. This is where we talk to the client and gather the exact requirements so we know precisely what the app needs to do. Step 2 is planning out that timeline and budget. Step 3 is system design, which is often called modeling in standard SPM or modding as we have it right here. That's where we actually architect how the app is going to function on the back end. Step 4 is construction. That's the heavy lifting of writing the code and testing the logic. And finally, Step 5 is deployment, pushing the app live to all those hungry users and making sure we maintain it over time. Section 4, Supporting Umbrella Activities. Let's move to and see how this builds into the final piece of the puzzle, looking at the second layer of the process. Think of a literal umbrella here, protecting you from a massive downpour. That's exactly what these activities do. They hover over and protect all those core framework steps we just talked about. These aren't just a one-and-done checklist that you forget about. They run continuously. They cover every single stage from day 1 of planning all the way to the final day of deployment, just ensuring that absolutely nothing falls through the cracks. Because, remember, while your developers are actively heads down writing code for the shopping cart or designing the GPS tracking screen for our food app, that core work doesn't just happen in a vacuum, right? It requires constant background supervision to make sure the app doesn't completely crash when thousands of people all try to order dinner at the exact same time. So we have these 5 activities always running in the background to ensure quality. Project Tracking Control monitors the pulse of the schedule. Risk management is essentially your radar, spotting storm clouds long before they actually hit. Quality assurance makes sure the code is super robust and bug-free. Then you have configurations management, which carefully handles version control, because trust me, you do not want a rogue update accidentally deleting weeks of work. And finally, documentation permanently captures all the project's knowledge. Woven together, they form this incredible safety net that absolutely guarantees a high-quality product.
We've seen how these layered processes and protective umbrella activities can take random chaos and turn it into a massively successful software launch. But I want you to think about your own projects for a second, whether you're in tech or doing something completely different. How are you managing the daily confusion in your own workflows? Are you just kind of relying on hope, or are you actually utilizing clear frameworks and safety nets to guarantee your success? Take a hard look at your process. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.